So there are 2 points. I mean, you're taking 2 takeaways from the president's speech, but I know that, criticisms, of course, will be plenty as well. But then you cannot take away from him the fact that the economy has moved out of a recession and we seem to be on the path of growth.
Well, yes, we can't take that away. However, this is a recession that, and we entered this recession during this government. These are things that you got yourself into it and we've brought ourselves out. It's the same thing. You can't really look at it and go, oh, this is a big praise, like we've been suffering from this for several years. No. We entered recession in this government and then they're bringing us out of it.
Did you say you got yourself into it? And
no, I did not get myself into it.
No, I'm using your words. You said you got yourself into it.
Yes, I do think that the government created this mess, and the government is fixing the mess that they created.
Some economists will argue differently. They say recession was inevitable. So it was more like they walked into a recession, not as if they got into it.
Since this government came into play, we have seen steps that led us into a recession. We've seen delays in policy making. We've seen delays in appointments. We've seen their steps in the economy, the lack of an economic team. We've seen what led us here, step by step by step. Every step of the way, people can look at, okay, this is what was happening, this is this, this is that. And then all of a sudden you're saying, no, this was inevitable. Well, the actions of this government led us here, and it was inevitable from that point that we're going to get into a recession.
Okay, you've seen the steps that led to the recession. Have you seen the steps that took the nation out of the recession?
Well, that's why we're here again. But I'm not saying that steps have not been taken to take the nation out of recession. I'm simply saying that you created this mess. You are fixing the mess that you created. And it's really that simple.
But are you not acknowledging that there was a mess before, the government came in?
Again, when this government came in, we had seen what led us down this path. And at every time, some economists were here to tell us.
I think
economists were here to tell us,
yes.
And I do watch this show a lot. This policy, this thing we're doing, this monetary, this and that, is going to get us in this mess. I mean,
my point
really
is,
out there
was already indication that we were heading down this path. If we did nothing, this is where we will end. I mean, there are always 2 sides to a coin. People will say that a recession did not just happen. There were things already leading us there. If we did not do anything to avert it, then we will end up in a recession. You can accuse the government, and I think that is neither here nor there. One can accuse the government of not doing enough to ensure that we averted it. But the thing is, were we not already on the path to recession from the last government?
Not doing enough is one thing. Actually taking steps that would harm the economy is another.
Are you refusing to acknowledge the fact that when the PDP handed over, we were already on a path to a recession? Is that what you're avoiding?
The fact that this particular government did take steps that led us into a recession, and I'm sticking with that.
You're not going beyond or past 2015. You're not going back before 2015.
Well, that will be then, okay, this government promised something, and that was changed. And so you can't always bring us here and say, okay, we want to compare this and that. If you have said that the nation has moved on from what they considered failure, or that's what this government campaigned with, so you can't come again and start dragging us back there. What we're going to discuss is their words, what they promised to deliver, and their failure to deliver that. And that's really that simple. They promised to deliver this. When they got in, the steps they took did not lead us to what they promised.
Yeah, for some people, they will say that you have to know where you're coming from to appreciate where you are and where you're going to. If you do not appreciate where you're coming from, perhaps you might not be able to know how much progress you've made.
Again, should we have to go through this?
Perhaps we need to.
Again, we voted, or Nigerians voted for something. And that was changed. That was, we don't want to go into this. That was what these people promised. That was what the APC promised. That when we get in, we're going to take steps that will make the economy shape, put the economy in a certain shape. And when they got in, they did not do that. So we can't come in now and start discussing what people decided that they were going to leave behind and go back there to discuss it. That's counterproductive.
This is where we are now. We've made progress.
That's counterproductive. We have made progress from the mess that the government created.
From the stats that we see.
We have made progress from the mess that the government created.
Now, I think that is very debatable. If you would not acknowledge the fact that there was already a mess, prior to 2015, it might be very debatable for you to now start saying that it is a mess that the government created.
The present mess and what we're discussing right now.
Where I'm trying to take us to is the fact that we have made progress. Are you happy with the progress that we have made?
We have made progress from a mess created by the same government. It's not a difficult concept. This government created a mess. This government is trying to get itself out of that fix. And it is what it is. What we're here to discuss is this government. 3 years. This is May 29th we're discussing now. This is 3 years. And it is from what this government put in. That's what they are fixing. So again, I would want to point out, was the economy excellent? No, it wasn't. But we can actually see things that this government did that made the economy worse. And now we're trying to get out of that worse to some sort of, well, the non-excellence that we want to acknowledge from the last government. And that's not something that we should be here dancing about.
Let me try and understand something, because, I mean, if they just come in, it's a new party, new government, they come in and people... Some have argued saying, look, being realistic, if you take up something, yes, politicians always promise all sorts of things. That's their nature. They do that. And then upon assumption of office, some mistakes were made for those who admit it.
So
and then if they...
mistakes were made.
No, I'm saying this is some people's schools of thought,
Okay.
so which is what I'm bringing forward now. And they, in that same school of thought, say those mistakes that were made eventually were corrected, and then they now cite recent figures from the MBS showing how the economy has grown. Then they didn't ask. So, if mistakes were made, we recovered, economy is growing, what's the hue and cry?
Again, you know, what we are saying, we're judging this, we're both saying the same thing, but at the same time, you want to bring in the argument from another year again.
I'm looking at the schools of thought of what's happening now.
They have fixed those mistakes, or they are in the process of fixing those mistakes. Good for you, but don't paint it like you've done something out of the ordinary, something, this is what the country has been looking for. No. You should have fixed this from the beginning. You are fixing your own mess. What should we commend for fixing your own mess? And your statement did admit that they are fixing their own mess. They are fixing their own mess. Why should we be here rolling out the drums and the red carpets for fixing their own mess?
The statement just quoted the school of thought.
Oh,
so not statements.
Well, then I'm responding to the school of thought.